Hey guys, tonight we drift into a world where rich, dark liquid once carried whispers of distant rainforests and colonial ambition. You probably won't survive this treat, it's that decadent. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, share your location and local time in the comments because I'm nosy like that. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You trudge through humid undergrowth, the sharp scent of rotting leaves, and fertile soil filling your nostrils. Imagine it's like stepping into your grandma's fridge but in a jungle. The cacao tree stands before you, its pods like crinkled lanterns glowing against glossy leaves. This is where our story begins in the tropical groves of Mesoamerica, long before Spanish sails carved new maps. Mainstream fact. By the 1520s, Spanish explorers had loaded chests of cacao beans onto galleons bound for Seville, introducing chocolate to European palates. Historians still argue whether those early tinctures were originally medicinal brew or a social indulgence, but they sure knew how to market a buzz. Meanwhile, fringe tidbit archaeologists once found a chocolate-stained pot in a burial chamber suggesting cacao may have doubled as funeral flower arrangement. Talk about bittersweet decoration. You watch deckhands heft heavy sacks, beans rolling like marbles across tossing decks, the ocean spray misting your face. Salt on cacao. Who knew? A light joke. Hopefully no sailors made chocolate chip cookies mid-crossing. Talk about soggy dough. Gentle sarcasm surfaces as you note the irony. Conquistadors came seeking gold but left with a taste for brown gold instead. Modern aside, imagine texting your buddy mid-ship. Hey, got any extra cacao? No, fine. Guess I'll resort to coffee this AM. In those grinding circles yet to come, communal rhythm echoed the Atlantic waves you just crossed. Your mind drifts lulled by the idea of chocolate's oceanic voyage, like a lullaby sung by ship bells, except suppa, less squeaky. Another joke drifts in: if only those beans could tweet their travel diary, hand lost in Lima. Sensory details dance the tang of salt, the woody aroma of hull planks, the sticky residue under your fingers as you inspect a stray bean. You glimpse a powdered ledger in the captain's cabin numbers tracking cacao cargo, alongside silver ingots, a sly reminder that this commodity soon rivaled bullion in value. You feel that circular pulse of history stretching from grove to port as present tense carries you forward. Soon in colonial markets, grinding circles will whirl like lazy carousel rides, minus the cotton candy smell. Remember that crocodile dung sunscreen? This is gentler. Though some fringe scholars note cacao paste doubled as sunblock among indigenous peoples. Historians still argue whether those practices influenced later European cosmetic experiments. Your eyelids flutter as the story's rhythm sways like waves rocking a cradle, drawing you deeper into chocolate's colonial odyssey. You're stepping into a sun-dappled clearing where stone altars glisten with morning dew and the scent of roasted cacao drifts like a promise. Massive metates, flat grinding stones, hewn from volcanic basalt, stand upon earthen floors, their surfaces worn smooth by generations of rubbing manos. You press your palm against one, feeling the cool roughness, and your fingers trail tiny grooves carved over centuries. Around you, drumming echoes from distant hills, a heartbeat, calling workers to ceremony and grind. Mainstream fact. By around 600 CE, the Maya had perfected the art of fermenting cacao pulp and drying beans, then grinding them to a paste used in ritual feasts and elite gatherings. Historians still argue whether those gatherings symbolize communion with gods or simply reinforce community bonds. Meanwhile, fringe tidbit. Some archaeologists report traces of chili pepper residue on ancient metates, suggesting spice-infused chocolate might have spiced up temple rites. You smirk at the thought a divine TikTok trend, spicy sacrifice challenge. You crouch before a gathering of women in embroidered hui pills, their eyes soft with concentration as they rock manos in rhythmic circles. The steady grinding produces a paste that glistens like wet clay under torchlight. You probably won't survive this ritual. Well, you might, but you'll definitely taste it later. A light joke drifts through if you complain about arm day at the gym tomorrow. Remember? These folks earned those biceps centuries ago. There's smoke curling from incense burners' copal resin, mingling with the earthy aroma of chocolate in the air. You can almost hear the murmurs of prayer as the paste thickens. Sacred cacao wasn't just a drink. It was believed to bridge worlds. Quirk alert some codices depict cacao trees sprouting at the base of world trees, linking them to cosmic axes. You imagine the cacao beans as ancient Wi-Fi signals connecting earth and sky. In the center, a decorated bowl holds ground cacao mixed with water honey and maguey sap, forming a foamy beverage called xocoatl. You lean in and inhale its bittersweet steam, like coffee left on a campfire too long, but with extra drama. A scholarly debate hums behind your thoughts. Historians still argue whether Xocoatl's foam symbolized celestial clouds or merely showcased skilled frothing. Your fingers ache as you absent-mindedly trace the rim of a molcajete, an ornate mortar carved with jaguar motifs. Local lore says the jaguar visage protects the paste from malevolent spirits. You recall that crocodile dung sunscreen. This is much tastier and, thankfully, less likely to attract crocs. Another joke pops up. Envision an Instagram filter adding whiskers and fangs to your best molcajet selfie. The women trade quiet jokes in Nahuatl, and Maya languages teasing each other about whose paste froth's highest. You're struck by their camaraderie. Grinding circles weren't solitary chores, but social gatherings where stories gossip and gossip-laced history passed from aunties to nieces. A fringe whisper surfaces in some regions. Cacao paste was even used as anointing oil in fertility rites. Imagine bribes of chocolate to woo the rain goddess. You lean back against a carved pillar, feeling the tactile energy of the stone beneath your spine. A single torch flickers, casting dancing shadows across painted murals of maize gods, offering cacao to feathered serpents. Sensory detail drapes around you, the muffled clack of stone on stone, the murmured prayers, the sweet undertone of fermenting beans. Modern aside, it's like watching a slow-motion ASMR video, only stickier. Someone offers you a taste lukewarm, gritty, and intensely chocolatey. You take a cautious sip, wincing as coarse granules slide across your tongue. A gentle sarcasm surfaces. Nothing says historic authenticity like nibbling sand mixed with bittersweet bean. But it's delicious, earthy, and alive, a raw echo of forest floors and ancient fire pits. You catch yourself drifting to plot the next joke. If only Hollywood made a blockbuster about this grinding stone, the untold saga. But you stay grounded, remembering the weight of tradition here. Each circle is a living link in a chain stretching back thousands of years. Mainstream fact reminder, those rituals laid the foundation for every chocolate cafe and candy bar centuries later. As the sun climbs higher, the circle winds down. Manos rest against metates like exhausted oars after a silent rowing session. Women gather the paste into woven baskets lined with fresh leaves, preparing it for transport to market or temple kitchens. You rise, stretching limbs stiff from crouching, and glance once more at the altar where cacao met community. A final quirky note, some colonial accounts claim cacao shells littered the ground, creating crunchy mulch that birds, possibly parrots, later harvested, scattering seeds for spontaneous cacao groves. Historians still argue whether this was ecological happenstance or intentional agroforestry. You imagine colorful birds hosting their own grinding circles, chattering in avian applause. Your eyelids grow heavy as the steady thud of grinding fades to a distant echo. Remember the ocean's pulse from Section 1. This is its earthy twin stone rhythms pulsing beneath your palms. The early morning breeze carries a soft promise of more chocolate tales ahead. You sit back, lulled by the memory of volcanic stone and whispered prayers as the sacramental paste cools in the midday heat. It's the end. You emerge into the opulent courtyard of the Viceroy's palace where stone arches frame sunlight dancing on tiled floors like a late-night rave but with more patience. Perfumed air drifts from fountains sheathed in carved obsidian, mingling with the heady warmth of fresh chocolate. You probably won't survive court intrigue. Well, survive the gossip, maybe. So before you forget, like this video and subscribe if you're truly loving this cozy ride. Share your location and local time. I'm genuinely curious. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's melt into this next layer. Mainstream fact. By the 1580s, the Spanish court in Mexico City had adopted chocolate, was also as a sought-after luxury drink served cold or hot in ornate gold-trimmed goblets. Historians still argue whether it was enjoyed mainly by the elite or trickled down to ambitious bureaucrats eager to taste royal privilege. Fringe tidbit: one diary entry describes a court lady stirring her chocolate with a quill. Talk about pen-to-powder transfer. You find yourself by a tasseled velvet couch, sipping from a delicate porcelain cup painted with royal crests. The chocolate is frothy. Imagine your morning cappuccino, but replace coffee with the richest, darkest essence of tropical forests. Gentle sarcasm. I'm sure no one here is checking their email mid-sip except maybe the royal secretary who's probably drowning in paperwork anyway. In one corner, musicians pluck harpsichords and violins, but their soft melody is drowned by the clink of cups and quiet chatter. You notice noblemen in ruffled collars praising the beverage's health virtues, asserting it cures melancholy and sharpens the mind. Scholars debate whether these claims were genuine or marketing fluff by colonial entrepreneurs. You raise an eyebrow, maybe they just wanted an excuse to drink more. Cracked whispers drift about chocolate's origins. Some courtiers claim it's an aphrodisiac. Others call it a nausea cure after too many fiestas. You smirk as you recall a fringe claim missionaries once denounced chocolate as devil's brew because it excited the blood. A scandalous accusation slip more thrilling than any Spanish soap opera. Visual details weave around you. The goblets rest on silver trays engraved with floral patterns, while toasty steam curls upwards like lazy incense. You feel the weight of history in every sip. This was the beverage that bridged continents and hierarchies. Modern aside, imagine posting a selfie here with #Royal Chocolate High. Talk about influencer goals. A guard in plumed helmet lingers by a steaming cauldron where servants whisk cacao paste, water, sugar, and spices, including cinnamon imported from the Philippines, into a velvety emulsion. You inhale deeply, spicy, sweet, woody, and faintly nutty like a perfumed candle you want to drink. A light joke surfaces, hope they're not adding candles to the mix, yikes. In hushed tones, ladies compare secret recipes. Some add 1 clove, others 2 pinches of black pepper. Historians still argue whether these flavor wars influenced modern mole sauces. You lean in, tasting a spoonful, warm, slightly gritty, and utterly enveloping. It's like comfort food distilled to a regal potion. You notice a procession of pastry-laden carts arriving, sugar-dusted churros, sweet tamales, and chocolate-filled empanadas. Quirk alert! One eccentric noble insisted on dipping his entire sugar loaf into chocolate, essentially inventing the world's stickiest s'more. You laugh softly, feeling your cheeks warm. The court's grinding circles may have been more refined. No stone matetes here, but brass and copper vessels. Yet the communal spirit endures. Chocolate ceremonies united nobility in whispered conspiracies and spiced gossip. You sip one last time, letting the decadence settle like a lullaby against your tongue. As the afternoon sun slants through lattice windows, the courtyard's buzz softens into murmurs. You rise from your seat, the porcelain goblet still warm in your hand. Remember the stone altars and shaking manos. This is chocolate's polished next act, a performance of power, prestige, and, of course, pleasure. You step away, eyes heavy with indulgent calm, carrying the taste's memory like a fragrant cloak. Soon, you'll join the grinding circles that pulse in markets and convents, but for now, the court's elegance wraps around you in a gentle embrace. Your eyelids droop as the palace fades to a quiet echo of harpsichord notes. You slip through a narrow corridor of sunlit arcades into a bustling marketplace courtyard where stone benches circle around a central hearth. This is where grinding circles take their first breath in colonial Mexico. The air vibrates with chatter, the crackle of firewood, and the steady thump of manos against metetes. Each circle feels like a slow carousel. Women seated shoulder to shoulder, elbows brushing, sharing not only chocolate paste but gossip remedies and gentle laughter. Mainstream fact. By the early 1600s, public chocolate-making gatherings were common in Mexico City's plazas where vendors demonstrated their craft to eager customers. Historians still argue whether these circles evolved primarily for economic exchange or as social hubs reinforcing community ties. Fringe tidbit. Some colonial travelers claim they witnessed men sneaking into these circles disguised as women just to catch a whiff of the paste and maybe eavesdrop on spicy gossip. You settle onto a carved stone bench, the cool surface rubbing through your skirt like unexpected AC on a summer day. To your left, Senora Maria presses a beautifully veined molcajete with practiced strength. To your right, Doña Luisa rocks her mano in broad circles, sending chocolate sparks of laughter into the air. Their garments rustle a symphony of embroidered cotton and silken shawls, while small clay bowls clink as paste is ladled and passed. A fire pit crackles at the center, flame tongues licking the pot where cacao chips melt into glistening pools of dark gold. You can almost hear the beans sizzling as they soften like popcorn seconds before the pop. Savory tendrils of smoke swirl into courtyard arches, carrying the scent of charred wood and sweet chocolate. A light joke forms. You wonder if someone here is going to invent s'mores next. Just add sugar-dusted tortillas. In one corner, a mule-drawn cart arrives, its wheels groaning across cobblestones. The driver tips his hat and unloads woven baskets brimming with fresh sugarcane vanilla pods and dried chiltepin chilies. Local lore claims that chili-infused chocolate can cure love sickness, though some doctors of the era dismissed it as quackery. You smirk, remembering that Spanish court lady who stirred with a quill. This is peasants' ingenuity on full display. A nearby merchant waves you over, offering a taste of a new brew. Chocolate blended with ground maize, water, and aniseed. You take a sip, warm, slightly gritty, with a cool licorice whisper dancing on your tongue. It's like sipping an ancient latte that nobody asked for. Gentle sarcasm drifts, at least it's gluten-free if you ignore the cobblestone grid. Above the circle, painted tiles depict angels pouring streams of chocolate from celestial urns. You recall the royal courtyard's polished goblets, Section 3, and the sacred stone altars, Section 2. Here, chocolate is no longer divine relic, but everyday ritual. Yet there's still enchantment. Scholarly debate simmers over how these public circles shaped colonial gender roles. Did they empower indigenous women or reinforce servitude? You lean back, letting the question thrum beneath your skin as you watch hands move in synchronized rhythm. A chatter of voices in Nahuatl and Spanish weaves around you. Trading recipes for tomorrow's grind. Add more cinnamon for warmth, or less water for a denser paste. A fringe account claims that in some villages, participants tossed in ground maize used for tortillas, effectively inventing the world's first chocolate cornbread. You imagine biting into a slice of that innovation, maybe historians will argue millennia later whether it was breakfast or dessert. The sun dips behind a bell tower, casting long shadows over the courtyard. Torches ignited around the circle cast a golden glow. Embers flicker like fireflies trapped in glass. You feel the sticky heat from the hearth mixing with the evening breeze, carrying the scent of smoke and cinnamon. A small child toddles past, trailing a ribbon dipped in chocolate paste, transforming the pavement into sticky art. A light joke: if that ribbon ever dries, it might hold more historical insight than dusty tomes. Senora Maria leans over to whisper a mnemonic ditty for frothing chocolate, her voice low and conspiratorial, like she's spilling secret tea. You catch whirl 3 times clockwise, 2 back. Then tap thrice on fire's edge. A playful edge of competitive pride glints in her eyes. You grin, recalling the chaos of court recipe wars. This is grassroots chocolate diplomacy, complete with tutorials. A merchant interrupts the rhythm to hawk sugar-dusted churros stuffed with chocolate paste. Modern cravings echo ancient tastes. The smell of frying dough sugar crunching punctuates the circle's steady beat. You reach for one, biting through golden crisp into molten center heat and sweetness surging together. Sensory detail wraps around you, the crunch, the steam swirling off warm paste, the distant toll of church bells marking vespers. Night settles fully as lanterns flicker overhead. Shadows dance across stone walls scarred by beans and paste. The circle slows, manos paus, metates cool, and the pot's last drips echo in the hush. Women gather, their bowls and baskets patting each other's backs, exchanging farewells and tomorrow's meeting times. You rise, feeling the gentle ache in your arms, a reminder that every sip you enjoy traces back to these tireless hands. A final quirky note: colonial records hint at a secret society of grinders who met at midnight, adding hallucinogenic petals from native flowers to chocolate, allegedly to commune with ancestral spirits. Historians still argue whether these rituals influenced early colonial resistance movements. You tuck that thought away, letting the courtyard's silence embrace you. You step out onto the cobblestone street, the echoes of grinding fading like a lullaby. Each circle has woven itself into the fabric of everyday life, binding people, flavors, and traditions in a gentle embrace. You feel the soft pull of sleep edging in, guided by memories of volcanic stones and shared laughter. Ahead lies the birth of new circles, convents where sisters grind in candlelight, and market fairs where chocolate becomes spectacle. But for now, you walk home under starlight, the faint scent of chocolate lingering on your fingertips. You slip beneath the cool archway of a whitewashed convent, where the hush of prayer meets the gentle echo of grinding stones. Soft candlelight glows against smooth walls, illuminating rows of sisters in simple habits who share the circular benches of their private grinding chamber. There's a reverent calm here. Unlike the boisterous marketplace, the air scented faintly with beeswax and chocolate, as if heaven itself forgot to separate the two. Mainstream fact: by the mid-1600s, many convents in Puebla and Veracruz had established their own grinding circles producing chocolate, both for sale and for sacramental hospitality. Historians still argue whether convents primarily viewed these circles as spiritual labor or economic enterprise. Fringe tidbit folklore tells of a sister who once ground chocolate so passionately that her habit caught a stray bean husk on fire, leading to the order's first ever fiery chocolate miracle legend. You settle beside Hermana Isabel, who rhythmically rocks her mano against a polished metate carved from rose granite. She hums a Marian hymn as she grinds, her voice merging with the stone thud into a gentle chant. You probably won't survive this divine duet. Well, you'll at least learn 2 hymns and maybe a secret tip for froth. So hey, like and subscribe if you're enjoying the serenade. Share your location and local time. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's continue. The paste in Hermana Isabel's bowl glimmers like moonlight on dark water. She tips in a drizzle of honey harvested from convent hives' vibrant gold against the ebony. You breathe in the sweet blend, noting a whisper of wildflower pollen mingled with cacao. A gentle sarcasm surfaces. Nothing says religious devotion like gourmet snacks. Her nimble fingers scrape the paste free, forming it into little loaves wrapped in banana leaves bound with a strand of palm fiber. Nearby, Hermana Lucretia debates theology and recipes. Asserting chocolate's warmth symbolizes divine love, while Isabel insists it's more about stomach satisfaction. Historians still argue whether chocolate metaphors infiltrated sermons or remained secular amusements. You grin as you recall that court lady with the quill stirrer. This is celestial versus corporeal, scribes versus stirrers. A soft debate arises over seasonal spice blends, clove and cinnamon for winter indulgence or anise and allspice for feasts honoring saints. You taste a drop of Lucretia's concoction, spicy yet floral, like sipping a church key cocktail. Fringe whisper some convent accounts hint at saffron added for color and subtle earthiness, though saffron's price rivaled gold and likely caused budget meetings worthy of papal letters. Sensory detail cascades the murmured prayers, the gentle clack of stone, the sweet tang of honey-laced paste, all bathed in flickering light. Outside, the distant toll of the Vespers bell underscores the sisters' devotion and hints at dinner soon. A light joke drifts, perhaps they'll serve chocolate gazpacho at supper. Imagine that on your menu. You observe lines of folded parchments bearing orders for chocolate deliveries to aristocrats visiting clerics and the occasional inquisitor, hopefully with a forgiving palate. Economic threads weave through sacred spaces. Convent circles funded, novitiate education repairs, and alms for the poor. You note the irony. Something so indulgent became a charitable engine. Modern aside, you think about Kickstarter campaigns. This predates crowdfunding by centuries. Hermana Isabel catches your eye and offers a sweet nibble of freshly molded bar, thick smooth, with a delicate honey coating that glints in candlelight. You close your eyes, savoring its multi-layered depth, the faint bite of granulated sugar, the underlying tartness of fermented pulp, the soft hum of floral honey. Gentle sarcasm surfaces. This must be what angels snack on between hymn verses. Above you, a painted ceiling depicts the Virgin Mary presenting cacao pods to kneeling nuns, a fringe, artistic flourish. Unexplained by any canonical text. Scholars still argue if this imagery reflects genuine belief or clever promotional art. You stare, imagining those pods twinkling like stars in the midnight sky. As grinding circles wind down, sisters gather in a semicircle for evening prayer. Meditates rest like faithful companions. The chocolate loaves cool on clay racks, their scent weaving through quiet corridors. You rise, feeling your arms heavy and heart light, carrying the sisters' peaceful dedication within you. A final quirky note: old convent records mention a secret midnight ritual where a chosen sister would mix cacao paste with rose water and candle soot to create sleeping salve applied to weary pilgrims' temples. Historians still argue whether this was medicinal smokescreen or pious myth-making. You tuck away that thought as you're guided out the convent's hush, lingering like a lullaby. You step back into the moonlit courtyard, the sisters' grinding circle behind you fading into soft prayer echoes. Each circle, whether in palace, market, or convent, threads into chocolate's colonial tapestry. Your eyelids feel weighted by communal warmth and whispered chants. Ahead, more circles await: guild gatherings, marketplace fairs, and clandestine midnight mixes. But for now, drift onward as the convent's calm wraps you in gentle peace. You enter a dimly lit workshop tucked behind a row of adobe storefronts where the scent of stone dust mingles with that familiar chocolate undertone. Massive slabs of volcanic rock metates lean against the walls, each one unique in shape and texture. On sturdy wooden tables, ornate molkajets, carved mortars sit alongside finely crafted manos. You probably won't survive another tool tutorial. Well, use these tips wisely when you recreate at home. So before you adjust your lighting, like and subscribe if you're still awake. Share your location and local time. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's grind deeper. Mainstream fact: colonial artisans often sourced basalt and rose granite from nearby quarries to craft metates and molkajets, ensuring the right porosity for effective grinding without absorbing oils. Historians still argue whether certain tool designs traveled from indigenous lineages or evolved locally under Spanish influence. Fringe tidbit: a rarely seen 17th century molkajet once surfaced in a private collection, its handles shaped like coiling serpents. Some believe it functioned in clandestine cacao cult rituals. You run your fingers along a metate's concave surface, noting the hairline fissures where centuries of friction have smoothed ravines into slick channels. A light joke surfaces, it's like the world's grimiest record player, but instead of music, it spins cocoa symphonies. The workshop's apprentice shows you a mano, its cylindrical body perfectly balanced, and invites you to try. You position it at the stone's edge and push, feeling the resistance in your forearms. Your arms burn, reminding you that modern blenders have stolen all the fun. Candlelight flickers over a trio of molkajetes carved from coral-streaked granite, each one a tiny cathedral of grooves. The middle bowl features carved glyphs, cacao pods entwined with fleur-de-lis, an emblem of cross-cultural craftsmanship. You lean closer, imagining each chip as a wink from an artisan long gone, saying, "Keep grinding, friend." Gentle sarcasm. Take that Silicon Valley startups, this is true handmade innovation. A nearby bench displays tools in various phases: rough-cut stone, half-polished pieces, and finished mortars polished to a satiny sheen. The master craftsman explains how they test each piece by grinding a small cacao sample. Only those that produce a fine paste without gritty residue earn approval. You nod solemnly, picturing a medieval QA process: rejected, too bumpy, try again. Sensory detail envelops you: the earthy scent of chiseled stone, the faint metallic tang of weathered tools, the low murmur of workshop chatter. You touch a newly finished metate, its cool surface feels like a riverbed at dawn, sturdy and alive. A modern aside, imagine Oma's vintage crock pot with this level of artisanal flair. A scholar chimes in about debates over wheel-turned versus hand-carved designs, suggesting that Spanish lathes influenced local artisans. Historians still argue how much cross-pollination occurred between European and indigenous tool-making techniques. You sip water to clean the dust from your mouth, wondering if any of these workshops secretly ground pigments for paint or pigments for memorial rituals. Behind you, a display case holds miniature molkajetes made of porcelain colonial souvenirs for curious travelers. One bears an inscription: "To Señorita Maria, from your devoted friar." 1692. Fringe whisper some, believe such gifts masked love potions stirred into chocolate, of course. You smile at the thought: Cupid's arrow dipped in cacao. You lift a small mano, a palm-sized version used for grinding spices rather than cacao, and roll it gently across the metate, feeling coarse granules transform into silky powder. A light joke pops up. This must be what medieval baristas felt before espresso machines' pure arm day. The master shows you how to season a new molkajet, rinse in water, then grind raw rice repeatedly until the stone releases no more grit. You imagine morning routines spent rice grinding instead of coffee grinding. Talk about dedication. Sensory detail, the soft whisper of rice grains, sliding the moist aroma of starch waking the air. As you prepare to leave, the craftsman hands you a polished chip of basalt, a good luck token for your chocolate journey. You tuck it into your pocket, its weight reminding you of every circle's roots in stone and skill. Remember the convent's candlelit chants. Here, tools become silent partners in history's quiet rituals. Your eyelids feel heavier with each tactile memory, the grind of stone, the hum of candlelight, the promise of warm chocolate soon to follow. Ahead, flavors await, spice experiments, economic booms, and religious debates all swirling in future circles. But for now, you walk away under a sky turning navy, the memory of these stones settling like gentle lullabies beneath your palms. You settle into the fading glow of twilight in a bustling colonial kitchen where a low fire warms copper cauldrons brimming with bubbling brews of chocolate and spices. You probably won't survive this flavor experiment. Well, at least your taste buds will get a wild ride. So before you get too curious, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And don't forget to share your location and local time. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's stir in the next flavor. Mainstream fact. By the 1630s, Mexico City chefs were blending cacao with cane sugar imported from local plantations and adding ground cinnamon and vanilla to sweeten the drink for European palates. Historians still argue whether sugar first arrived as a medicinal additive or purely as a culinary indulgence. Meanwhile, fringe tidbit, one eccentric recipe book from 1642 advises simmering cacao with crushed maize kernels to produce a porridge-like chocolate gruel, supposedly favored by colonial children. You lean over a simmering pot as a servant ladles out samples into small clay cups. The liquid shimmers dark as obsidian, with threads of steam swirling upward like ghostly dancers. You inhale a rich bouquet, spicy warmth of cassia bark, heady floral notes of vanilla orchid, and the earthy undertone of roasted maize. A light joke forms. It's like ordering a latte, but the barista throws in cornbread for free. A spoonful brushes your lips, velvety smooth, yet flecked with tiny granules of sugar that pop like distant fireworks. The maize bits swirl around your tongue, adding unexpected body and texture. You wrinkle your nose, then smile. This isn't your grandma's hot cocoa. Gentle sarcasm drifts. Next thing you know, they'll be adding kale and calling it health food. Behind you, cooks debate the perfect spice ratio. Some insist on 2 pinches of black pepper for digestive vigor, while others champion a heavier hand of clove to calm the spirit. You catch Hermana Lucretia's voice, echoing from Section 5. Balance is divine. Historians still argue whether these early flavor wars influenced Mexico's signature mole sauces centuries later. Sensory detail floods your senses. The hiss of steam escaping the cauldron, the metallic clink of ladles against copper, the flicker of torchlight dancing on terracotta walls. You feel warmth creep. Along your cheeks, a gentle blush from the spicy brew. A modern aside, it's like sipping a chai latte with a side of polenta. A dancer in the courtyard, invited by the kitchen master, twirls through the haze, feet brushing the cold stone. Her skirt's swirl blends with swirling aromas, reminding you that chocolate had crossed from ritual to performance. Fringe whisper. Some travelers claimed these flavor circles doubled as dance circles, sip, swirl, repeat, though records remain murky. You raise another cup, this one tinted amber by the maize, and swirl it deliberately, watching the foam collect at the edges. You taste a hint of anise licorice's sweet rebellion against chocolate's bitterness. A light joke pops up. Imagine mixologists today trying to recreate ancient hipster hot chocolate for influencer hashtags. A scholar leans in to debate whether these experiments reflected indigenous culinary ingenuity or European edicts demanding sugar-laden versions of native brews. Historians still argue which culture drove the innovation, though both claim a share of credit. You nod, thinking both sides might be right. After all, collaboration can birth the best flavors. Suddenly, a procession arrives carrying baskets of chili peppers, dried chiltepin, and smoked ancho. The kitchen master tosses a handful into the brew. A faint sizzle alerts you. You inhale the smokiness that creeps around the sweetness, warming your sinuses like a gentle furnace. It's like chocolate's spicy cousin just knocked at your door and asked to come in. You remember that spicy ritual from Section 2, the chili-infused temple offerings, and now witness its colonial reincarnation. The circular pattern emerges again. Ritual becomes kitchen temple, becomes marketplace, and wooden ladles become copper scoops. The lineage of flavor spins on. As the brew cools slightly, a servant presents samples alongside small red chilies preserved in sugar syrup. You pop one chili into your mouth, sweet, sticky, and then fire blooms. You gasp, laughter bubbling up between sips, feeling that playful burn trace your tongue. A fringe rumor floats by. Indulgent patrons would sometimes braid chili threads into their hair, believing it conferred seductive powers. Sensory detail lingers, the gentle heat on your lips, the sweet chili echo on your palate, the soft clink of cups receding as the kitchen readies for service. You lean back, resting against a warm flagstone, the evening's cool breeze carrying distant church bells. A gentle sarcasm surfaces. Who needs a spa when you can get a facial steam from this steamy chocolate chili concoction? You sip a final cup, letting the layered flavors ease across your tongue like a lullaby. The campfire glow of the kitchen fades, replaced by moonlight spilling through shuttered windows. You cradle the empty cup, feeling the brew's warmth settle in your chest, a gentle ember of comfort. You rise, arms relaxed, and carry the echo of spices and stone back into the night. Tomorrow's circles will bring new blends, perhaps cornmeal dumplings, dunked in chocolate soup, or rosewater-scented gruels. But for now, drift onward, lulled by the memory of hot cups and dancing spices. You find yourself standing at the edge of a busy dock at dawn, where derricks creak under the weight of crates stacked high with cacao beans. The air stings with salt and wood smoke as dock workers sling sacks over their shoulders, the thud of burlap on timber echoing like distant drum beats. You probably won't survive the chaos. Well, at least your senses will sprint. So before you get swept away, like and subscribe if you're still awake. Share your location and local time. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's sail into chocolate's economic tide. Mainstream fact. By the late 17th century, cacao had become one of New Spain's most lucrative exports, rivaling silver and cochineal in colonial trade profitability. Historians still argue whether the crown taxed cacao as a staple good or luxury item, a debate that shaped local economies. Fringe tidbit. A smuggler's ledger uncovered in 1684 lists clandestine shipments of cacao hidden inside barrels of salted herring, apparently fishy business if you ask me. You weave between mule-drawn carts and Spanish galleons, the ground vibrating under stampeding hooves. Merchants haggle over prices. One claims 2 pesos per quintal, while another brandishes a wax seal from Madrid to justify 3 pesos no less. Gentle sarcasm drifts here. That's the sound of weigh scales tipping profits into royal pockets. A dockside official waves a feathered quill at a merchant's contract, his robes rustling like paper on parchment. You catch a whiff of pipe tobacco blending with cacao dust, a scent you're beginning to associate with business deals and back-alley conspiracies. You watch crates being hoisted onto waiting ships, the sails billowing with promise of European markets hungry for chocolate. Sensory detail envelops you, the briny breeze whipping at your hair. The coarse grit of dock planks underfoot. The sweet undertone of escaping cacao dust. A modern aside, It's like standing in a coffee roastery, except the beans are bound for ribbon-laced goblets instead of paper cups. Nearby, a wealthy merchant counts out gold coins into a wooden tray, each coin's jingle louder than any church bell. He orders his clerk to note the date and origin of the beans for lineage mattered. Tabasco beans fetch higher prices than Veracruz, he boasts. Historians still argue whether terroir truly influenced flavor or was merely savvy marketing. A low murmur drifts from a group of dock workers swapping speculations. Some whisper that cacao's profits financed local rebellions, while others claim it lined the pockets of corrupt officials. Fringe whisper in one village disgruntled grinders allegedly sabotaged their own circles to protest heavy taxes. Imagine chocolate as a weapon of mass disruption. You lean against a timber post and watch a barrel being rolled toward a ship's hold, its wax-sealed lid glinting in the early light. A light joke surfaces, hope there's no chocolate pen testers on board. Nobody wants their shipment dunked in a mug before arrival. The barrel's rope coils like a lazy serpent, symbolizing both security and smuggling potential. Suddenly, a band of masked sailors brandishes short blades demanding backdoor access to the cacao hold. You tense, remembering that smuggled fish ledger pirates clearly had a sweet tooth. But a quicker-thinking dockmaster tosses them a crate of salted fish, and they slink away, leaving you with a lingering fear that chocolate might have attracted more than just polite gourmands. A scholar strolling by remarks on the impact of cacao wealth on urban development, arguing that port cities like Veracruz expanded housing and marketplaces funded by chocolate revenues. Historians still argue whether this boom enriched indigenous communities or solely empowered colonial elites. You shrug, thinking both outcomes probably occurred in tangled measure. A merchant's wife emerges from her carriage, draped in silks, clutching a small satchel of cacao nibs, presumably for her morning brew. She passes by as if she owns the dock, and you can almost hear her heels clicking, a rhythm of entitlement. Sensory detail, the faint swish of her gown, the distinct aroma of her perfume mixing with cacao and sea air, a colonial celebrity moment. You raise a finger to your lips and taste a stray bean. Someone dropped its bitter crunch, grounding you amid economic frenzy. Gentle sarcasm, talk about taste of success, right? You pocket the remainder for later, a souvenir of chocolate's journey from tree to treasure. As cranes clang and sails unfurl, you step back onto firm ground, the horizon brightening with promise and peril. Chocolate's economic boom rippled across continents, sparking fortune and fueling debates over power taxation and cultural exchange. You feel the gentle weight of that legacy settle in your chest, a mix of excitement and weary awe. Your eyelids flutter as the sun climbs higher, the thrum of dock life fading like a heartbeat receding into the sea. Remember the palace's goblets, the convent's hush, the workshop's stones. Each circle ritual, social economic spins together in chocolate's colonial tapestry. Ahead await religious rites, spicy experiments, scholarly tussles, and modern revivals. But for now, drift onward, lulled by the memory of swaying sails and clinking coin trays. You slip into a shadowed chapel where flickering candles cast long, wavering silhouettes on vaulted ceilings. The scent of melted beeswax and incense mingles with a faint chocolate sweetness, an olfactory crossroad of faith and flavor. You probably won't survive the sanctity. Well, at least you'll savor this divine mashup. So, before you drift too far, like and subscribe if this reverie resonates. And yes, share your location and local time below. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's kneel into tonight's ritual. Mainstream fact. By the early 1700s, Spanish missionaries had integrated chocolate into certain Catholic ceremonies in colonial Mexico, serving it to penitents after confession as a restorative drink. Historians still argue whether this practice softened indigenous resistance to conversion or simply adopted a local staple for convenience. Fringe tidbit. Some dusty mission records refer to a chocolate aspergillum freshly ground cacao used to sprinkle holy water, giving baptismal rites a bittersweet twist. You perch on a wooden pew stiff from travel and watch the friar dip a sprig of rosemary into a small bowl of spiced chocolate then lightly brush congregants' foreheads. The aroma rises herbal sharpness rounded by deep cocoa richness. A gentle sarcasm emerges. Nothing says bless you like a dab of bittersweet paste. You can almost hear heavenly harp chords only accompanied by the soft slurp of sipped chocolate. A line of worshippers forms, each stepping forward to receive the chocolate blessing after their penance. You notice patterns. Some robes are white, others brown, reflecting different orders. You lean to the friar's acolyte and whisper, "Does this count as communion or dessert?" He grins, too pious to answer. Historians still argue whether chocolate's role in ritual blurred lines between sacrament and snack. Sensory detail swirls: the hiss of candle flames, the faint echo of prayers, the gentle clack of wooden rosary beads sliding through fingers. You close your eyes and breathe in sweet earth-melted beeswax, a whisper of rosemary. A modern aside, it's like sipping an aromatherapy chai while saying your morning mantra. The friar invites you forward for a private sample only for visiting dignitaries, he assures you. You step up, heart fluttering, and receive a small chalice of frothy chocolate infused with clove and cinnamon. You lift the rim to your lips, tasting a complex weave, warm, spiced, laced with sacred hush. A light joke drifts. "Hope this isn't the new holy water, because I'd need a lot of confessions to get even a cup." Behind the altar, an embroidered tapestry depicts angels handing cacao pods to kneeling native converts, an image so quaint it might have been promotional art. Fringe whisper: some scholars suspect the tapestry concealed secret iconography hinting at indigenous earth goddess cults. You crane your neck, squinting. Ancient conspiracy or artistic flourish, historians still argue. A chorus of voices begins a low chant, Gregorian melody weaving into murmured Nahuatl responses, a syncretic hymn half in Latin, half in native tongues. The chocolate blessing follows each refrain, creating a circular rhythm of word and taste. Your senses swim in the overlap: sacred sound, bittersweet sip, communal breath. You learn that in some missions, chocolate blessings were reserved for harvest festivals when cacao yields were blessed for the year ahead. Congregants believed this infusion ensured abundant pods, like planting seeds of faith and flavor simultaneously. Historians still argue whether these beliefs influenced the later prominence of chocolate in Mexican Holy Week celebrations. An acolyte passes a silver tray of dark chocolate confections, small rectangles dusted with powdered sugar, each stamped with a cross. You select one and bite. A snap of sugar gives way to rich cocoa, a fleeting echo of the chapel's hush. Gentle sarcasm surfaces: "Oh, so now sin tastes sweet." You drift to the back row, leaning against a carved pillar warmed by candlelight. Your eyelids grow heavy as the chant loops, and the chocolate warmth settles like a cozy shawl around your chest. In the silence between verses, you catch a distant breeze drifting through stained glass windows, carrying the scent of night-blooming jasmine and roasted cacao. As the blessing ends, worshippers file out quietly, reverently, each carrying a small vial of leftover chocolate in brown paper wraps. You follow, stepping onto cool flagstones, the echo of footsteps a soft percussion. You pause beneath a vaulted arch, recalling the marketplace's boisterous circles and the convent's serene chants, each a facet of chocolate's evolving role in colonial society. Your chest rises and falls in sync with the chapel's lingering echoes. You tuck the little silver chalice into your satchel, a token of tonight's communion of faith and flavor. Ahead, debates await: guild circles, economic upheavals, modern revivals. But for now, drift with the quiet hum of candled arches and cocoa dreams. You wander into a fragrant courtyard where stalls brim with vanilla beans and chiltepin peppers, their colors blazing like sunset bursts against whitewashed walls. The traders here speak in rapid-fire Nahuatl, and Spanish voices rising and falling like the crackle of twin fires. You probably won't survive this sensory overload. At least your taste buds will survive and thrive. So before you get carried away, like and subscribe if you're loving these aromatic adventures, and drop your location and local time below. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's dive into tonight's spice swirl. Mainstream fact. Vanilla brought from Madagascar via Spanish galleons and native Mexican chilies. Like chiltepin, became prized chocolate additives by the late 1700s. Historians still argue which spice truly defined Mexico's signature chocolate profile, but both found their way into colonial circles. Fringe tidbit. Some recipe manuscripts recommend roasting chiltepin in tequila before adding to chocolate. Imagine a Mexican mocha gone wild. You step between tables draped in woven mats, inhaling the floral creamy perfume of vanilla, juxtaposed with the smoky heat of dried peppers. A vendor held under his arm a glass jar of tiny ruby-red chiltepin, like nature's spark plugs, ready to ignite. Gentle sarcasm drifts talk about a literal flavor grenade. A woman in a vibrant huipil hands you a sample of chocolate spiced with vanilla pods. Split lengthwise, its aroma so heady, you catch yourself inhaling it like perfume. You lift the cup, pale amber foam gleams at the rim, carrying a cassia whisper and deep bean body. You sip, tasting mellow sweetness, followed by a gentle vanilla caress. A light joke surfaces, could this be the world's first scented candle-flavored latte? Nearby, another trader offers a dark chocolate paste studded with toasted chiltepin, each pepper releasing a subtle fire when bitten. You pop one into your mouth. The sweetness cushions the initial flame, then heat blooms on your tongue, leaving a smoky afterglow like a campfire kiss. Sensory detail, your lips tingle. The courtyard hums and the scent of adobe earth rises beneath your feet. A modern aside, it's like a gourmet hot chocolate that enrolls you in boot camp. A scholar leans in debating whether vanilla or chili was the more revolutionary addition, citing trade records and taste journals. Historians still argue which ingredient spurred broader popularity in Europe, vanilla's exotic perfume or chili's novel kick. You nod, thinking perhaps both won that competition in their own arenas. Fringe Whisper legend speaks of a secret society of chocolateros who mixed vanilla chili and even achiote into a potion of passion, served only to elite lovers under moonlight. You grin at the thought, talk about setting the mood. Gentle sarcasm, no romantic evening complete without a side of moderate heartburn. You meander past a display of candied vanilla pods dipped in chocolate long, slender sticks, shimmering with sugary crystals. Children scamper around, clambering for sticky treats as apprentices refill jars with fresh pods. You pick up a pod, nibbling the candy shell to expose a dark chocolate core, then chew thoughtfully. A light joke murmurs, pre-modern lollipop anyone. The vendor tells you how vanilla vines were cultivated in shaded groves under planted trees mimicking tropical forests, a blend of indigenous agroforestry and European horticulture. Historians still argue whether slave labor or skilled local gardeners drove vanilla's early colonial boom. You absorb that complexity like a bittersweet aftertaste. Acknowledging each flourish carries weight. You recall the spicy temple rites Section 2 and the court's sugar-laced debates. Section 3. This courtyard's spice stalls are their flavorful grandchildren mixing tradition and innovation. The circular pulse of chocolate story beats on in these aromatic marriages. You feel your senses soften and sharpen in tandem, sweet, smoky, herbal, and hot. A final quirky note, drifts traders once swapped vanilla beans as currency during harvest festivals, wrapping them in papyrus like love letters. Historians still argue whether those swaps constituted barter or clandestine romance notes. You stash a bean in your pocket, a fragrant keepsake, against the night's approaching hush. The market's bustle slows as lanterns ignite overhead, casting a warm glow on spice pyramids and chocolate bowls. You breathe deeply, savoring the vanilla chili bouquet that clings to your clothes, your hair, your memory. The courtyard streets empty, leaving only the faint crackle of dying embers and hearths. You step away, letting the smoky sweetness linger on your tongue, as a soft promise of more circles. Ritual, economic, religious, and communal waiting just beyond the dawn. You step into a dimly lit guild hall where ornate portraits of past chocolataros gaze down from wood-paneled walls. The low buzz of debate fills the air as members gather around circular tables, each pressed with metates and molcajetes gleaming under chandelier light. You probably won't survive this intellectual fray. At least your mind will get a workout. So before you dive into arguments, like and subscribe if you're still awake, and share your location in local time. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's whirl into tonight's scholarly circle. Mainstream fact. By the 18th century, guilds of chocolateros regulated chocolate production in cities like Oaxaca, establishing standards for bean quality and grinding techniques. Historians still argue whether these guilds fostered innovation or stifled small artisans under strict rules. Fringe tidbit: one clandestine society reportedly held midnight debates while adding trace amounts of peyote to chocolate, believing it sparked divine inspiration. You pull up a wooden stool beside Senora Delgado, whose floral brocade dress contrasts with her pragmatic wisdom. She taps her mano thrice on a metete, signaling the start of the round. A register clerk reads aloud trade decrees, prompting exclamations. Too coarse, unfair tax. Long live the froth. The circle pulses with competing visions. Some demand coarser grind for rustic charm, others champion ultra-fine paste. Gentle sarcasm, just like online comment sections, only with fewer emojis. The hall resonates with technical jargon. By law, paste must not exceed 3 granules per millimeter. One master asserts. Another counters. Such precision kills character. Let the beans speak. Historians still argue whether granularity standards emerged from scientific study or arbitrary tradition. You smile, imagining modern baristas arguing over shot times instead of grind sizes. Sensory detail. The faint sound of chalk on blackboards as scribes note points, the warm glow of oil lamps reflecting off polished stone, the faint aroma of chocolate paste resting in clay bowls. You can almost taste the tension, bitter yet rich. A light joke drifts, perhaps they'd trademark rustic grind, TM, if trademarks existed then. A visiting spice merchant interjects, proposing a new blend of cacao with local nutmeg. The hall murmurs, innovation versus tradition wars reignite. Scholars debate whether such fusions airy in cafes or denounced as impure by purists. Historians still argue which side ultimately influenced Mexico's modern chocolate profiles. You lean toward an elderly chocolatier who shares a fringe anecdote. In Veracruz, they once brewed chocolate with seaweed for umami, disallowed by the guild, of course. Laughter ripples, guild rules couldn't police every experiment. Gentle sarcasm, imagine that on a cafe menu today, salted nori mocha. The circle divides into factions, voices rising to a gentle roar. You sense the fervor. Chocolate isn't just comfort, it's identity, economy, art. You sip from your clay cup, warm, slightly gritty, the taste laced with powdered cocoa and communal debate. As the session ends, the guild master pounds a gavel carved from a metate handle. Decisions etched into parchment will guide craftsmen for decades. You gather your notes, granularity standards, spice proposals, midnight peyote whispers, and rise from the circle, your mind buzzing like a well-tempered ganache. You step back into the moonlit street, the hall's robust chatter fading into quiet cobblestones. Each circle ritual kitchen market workshop chapel guild has shaped chocolate's colonial saga in layered strokes. Tomorrow brings tales of decline and revival, archaeological whispers, and modern echoes. But for now, drift onward, carried by the hum of powdered debates and warm camaraderie. You slip through the iron gates of a grand but somber plaza at dawn, where the once thrumming hum of grinding circles has grown faint, echoing against crumbling arcades. You probably won't survive this tale of decline. At least you'll appreciate the revival's spark when it flickers back to life. So before you wander through these shadows, like and subscribe if you're still with me, and share your location and local time below. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's trace the ebb before the flow. Mainstream fact. In the early 19th century, political upheaval from independence wars to reform-era confiscations disrupted many chocolate grinding circles as convents closed and guilds dissolved. Historians still argue whether economic instability or changing tastes drove the steep decline of communal chocolate-making traditions. Fringe tidbit. Local lore claims that in some villages, grinding stones were repurposed as millstones for chili powder, or even as makeshift altar steps. Talk about career changes. You stand in the plaza's center, framed by columns weathered by time and the smoke of passing rebellions. The smooth stone benches where women once gathered now bear graffiti and broken tiles. You run a finger over a chipped metate, embedded in the plaza floor, a silent monument to gatherings that once pulsed with life. A gentle sarcasm surfaces ironically, history's greatest remix, yet featuring less chocolate and more bullet holes. Sensory detail drapes over you. The distant clang of a blacksmith's hammer. A stray breeze carrying dust, and distant bell tolls, the hollow echo of footfalls on worn flagstones. You inhale, tasting the faint residue of forgotten cacao, a ghost note of sweetness amid urban grit. A light joke drifts. At least the plaza is gluten-free now, right? You wander to an old municipal archive housed in a stuccoed building where yellowed records reveal a cascade of closures. Convents once famed for their chocolate ceased operations in the 1830s. Guild charters expired or were repurposed by reformist governments. Scholars debate whether these changes democratized chocolate production, opening it to new entrepreneurs, or unraveled vital social bonds. Historians still argue which legacy outweighed the loss. A clutch of elderly residents gathers under a sagging porch, reminiscing in hushed voices. They recall childhood memories, clandestine nighttime circles in private kitchens where grandmothers ground cacao by flickering lamplight, ignoring laxed regulations to keep tradition alive. Fringe whisper one village even held secret ghost circles inviting descendants to grind by moonlight, believing the spirits of their foremothers guided each stroke. You squeeze into a narrow corridor of a private hacienda, now a cultural museum where a restored grinding circle invites curious visitors. The guide, wearing a faded ribbon from a 1920s revival festival, recounts efforts to resurrect communal chocolate sessions in the 1950s. She reverently demonstrates the old frothing stick, metat handle polished smooth by countless hands, and invites you to grind. You press the mano into the stone, feeling a spark of that ancestral rhythm reawaken in your arms. Mainstream fact reminder. By mid-20th century, historians and artisans collaborated to revive colonial grinding circles as heritage demonstrations, blending academic insight with local pride. Historians still argue whether these reenactments accurately reflect historical practice or simply romanticize the past. You grin at the thought who said nostalgia can't have a froth factor. Sensory detail returns the scrape of stone on stone, the warm thud echoing in a repurposed courtyard, the rising foam of fresh paste glistening under gallery lights. You taste a spoonful coarse, yet vibrant buzzing with renewed purpose. Gentle sarcasm drifts. Consider this your cultural protein shake. Outside, festival banners flap above the street, announcing the annual Fiesta del Chocolate Tradicional, where locals once again form grinding circles in every plaza, churchyard, and community hall. Children wearing embroidered aprons clamor around matates sized just for them, giggling as they mimic elders. A modern aside, it's like the TikTok trend of heritage crafts, only tastier and less likely to go viral. You wander through stalls selling chocolate tablets stamped with colonial-era motifs, and tiny molcajete keychains, tourist trinkets, twinned with tactile history. Nearby, a brazen mural depicts a circle of women grinding beneath an eclipse, a fringe homage to whispered midnight rites. Scholars still argue whether such artistic liberties honor or distort the original ceremonies. A historian leans over your shoulder, pointing at a 19th century lithograph showing a market stall where chocolate vendors sold frothy cacao from ornate urns. He notes debates over whether vendors used horse-drawn grinders or leaned on portable metates. Historians still argue these logistical details, though both versions certainly make for lively reenactments. As dusk falls, you return to the plaza, now alive with twinkling lights strung between arches. Grinding circles form in concentric rings, each group passing bowls of honey, cinnamon, and chili for experimental blends. You watch as strangers become neighbors, united by the beat of manots and matats. The sound is softer now, tempered by decades of silence, yet more poignant for its revival. A final quirky note. Some revivalists add modern twists like frothing with electric stands or infusing paste with artisanal coffee, though purists grumble. Historians still argue whether adaptation undermines authenticity or embodies living tradition. You taste a coffee chili chocolate square complex, surprising yet undeniably linked to every circle you've witnessed. Your eyelids grow heavy as the festival's rhythms wrap around you. The grinding's gentle pulse, a soothing metronome. From decline's hush to revival's crescendo, chocolate's story has danced through upheaval, memory, and resurgence. Ahead, await archaeological glimpses, modern workshops, and global revivals, but for now, drift into sleep on the soft hum of reborn circles. You step into a sunlit excavation site where half-buried matates peek from loose earth like ancient relics resurfacing from a half-forgotten dream. The sharp tang of turned soil mingles with a distant hint of chocolate, an olfactory illusion that tugs you deeper into the trench. You probably won't survive this trowel and brush adventure, at least your imagination will. So before you kneel beside the archaeologists, like and subscribe if you're still savoring this journey, and share your location and local time. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's brush away the centuries. Mainstream fact. In recent decades, excavations at colonial sites like El Cerrito and Tepeapulco have unearthed metastases and monos bearing residual cacao compounds confirmed by mass spectrometry. Historians still argue whether these tools were used continuously from pre-Hispanic times or represent colonial repurposing. Fringe tidbit. One team discovered a peculiar grinding stone inscribed with alchemical symbols. Some believe it played a role in clandestine chocolate-based folk medicine rituals. You crouch beside Dr. Morales gently, clearing dirt with a soft brush, each stroke revealing the smooth curve of a once vigorous matai. You lean in, inhaling the faint, earthy sweet aroma trapped in its grooves, as though the stone itself remembers centuries of paste. A light joke dances, "This is the world's oldest ASMR session, stone brushing not whispering." Nearby, a fragment of painted mural emerges on a collapsed wall, vibrant red cacao pods entwined with colonial garb, an image bridging two worlds. Archaeologists debate whether the mural adorned a marketplace stall or a clandestine guild meeting room. Historians still argue the site's original function, though both possibilities carry delicious implications. Sensory detail wraps around you, the click of pottery shards against trowels, the dusty warmth of midday sun, and the distant drone of cicadas, nature's metronome accompanying human discovery. A modern aside, it's like unboxing history's most exclusive chocolate sampler. Dr. Morales passes you a small jade bead, once part of a ritual necklace, and explains that it was found alongside a crushed cacao shell, hinting at ceremonial offerings. Fringe whisper local storytellers claim these beads were buried with cacao to protect against spirit hunger during epidemics. You hold the bead lightly as though cradling a secret. Your eyes travel to a shadowy corner where a student uncovers a tiny clay cup, its rim encrusted with residue. They label it Sample A, destined for lab analysis to detect sugar isotopes and spice traces. You muse that this cup, once warmed by eager lips, might have been the very vessel for the mocha-like gruel from Section 7. Gentle sarcasm talk about a timeless coffee spill, except nobody cleaned it up for 300 years. A flurry of excitement rises as another shard reveals a stamped glyph, a stylized hand holding a mitati, maybe a maker's mark or guild emblem. Historians still argue if chocolatero guilds branded their tools publicly, or if marks signified personal ownership. You imagine thousands of anonymous artisans marking stones like medieval sneakerheads tagging their territory. Suddenly, the ground shifts under your weight, reminding you that history's layers literally lie beneath every step. You brush aside more soil to reveal a vertical row of small grinding stones embedded in a wall niche, perhaps a private ritual circle hidden from prying eyes. Fringe whisper lore suggests these niches were used by secret societies mixing cacao paste with hallucinogens for visionary rites. Scholars still argue whether this was spiritual communion or early forms of resistance gatherings. You rise to stretch your legs, dust motes swirling in sunbeams like tiny planets orbiting forgotten worlds. You sip water, reflecting on the resilience of these tools once central to daily life, then buried by change, now resurrected by science. Mainstream fact reminder. Material culture studies show that such grinding stones provide direct links to social practices, from communal feasts to spiritual ceremonies. A student invites you to peer into a microscope slide containing ancient cacao starches, tiny granules glowing like stars under magnification. You lean in, marveling at their perfect spherical shapes, each a testament to ancestral ingenuity. You can't help but joke, "So this is where our chocolate stars were born." The team gathers around for a midday break, sharing thermoses of modern hot chocolate, rich, frothy, and ironically sweet. You sip, tasting the lineage of flavors distilled across time. Gentle sarcasm drifts, nothing like drinking history while uncovering it. As the sun dips lower, shadows lengthen over half-exposed ruins. You take a final brush to the largest metai, unveiling its full arc and step back to admire the revelation. This simple stone, once a centerpiece of community and ceremony, now stands as an emblem of cultural continuity and change. You pocket a small flake of basalt, a silent token of the day's discoveries. Each circle, ritual altars, workshops, market, plazas, guild halls, revival festivals, threads through time to this dusty trench. You feel the weight of centuries in that basalt shard, a comforting anchor, as memories of grinding rhythms echo in your mind. Your eyelids grow heavy as dusk settles on the dig site, the cicada's song softening into night. Archaeological whispers fade like distant lullabies, promising more revelations in today's final sections and beyond. For now, drift into sleep with the memory of Earth brushed away and history revealed each flake of soil a morsel of chocolate's colonial odyssey. You arrive at a sun-drenched plaza transformed into a festival ground, colorful papel picado fluttering overhead like vibrant butterflies, and rows of long tables set with gleaming molcajetes and mentates. You probably won't survive this hyperactive homage. Well, at least you'll leave with new recipes and maybe a sticky shirt. So before you dive in, like and subscribe if you're still on this journey, and share your location and local time. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's join the modern circle. Mainstream fact. In contemporary Mexico, annual Feria del Chocolate events draw thousands to communal grinding workshops where locals and tourists learn to make traditional chocolate using stone tools. Historians still argue whether these festivals preserve authentic colonial techniques or cater more to Instagram aesthetics. Fringe tidbit. At one festival in Oaxaca, organizers staged a midnight grinding circle under full moonlight, complete with whispered invocations to ancient cacao deities, though critics call it theatrical cosplay. You weave between stations where artisans demonstrate drizzling honey, sprinkling cinnamon, and folding in chili flakes, their hands moving in time with live mariachi rhythms. The air is a symphony of scents: roasted cacao's deep earthiness, sweet vanilla wafting from cinnamon sugar booths, and the faint zing of chili lime dust from a neighboring stall. You inhale deeply, like standing inside a walking chocolate bar ad. At one station, you join a small group clustered around a massive communal metate, the host guiding participants to press and roll their manos in synchronized circles. Your forearms tremble as you push into the stone, feeling the familiar resistance of centuries-old tradition. A light joke surfaces: who needs CrossFit when you have heritage crafts on leg day? Nearby, a chef scoops molten chocolate into flambeed fruit cups, flaming zest curling into the air. Modern flair colliding with colonial roots. You taste a spoonful velvety warmth, greeting your tongue a smoky swirl of charred mango and a whisper of chili that tingles your senses. Gentle sarcasm. Nothing says authentic like a burst of citrus inferno in your chocolate. A scholar perched on a raised platform invites attendees to debate the festival's authenticity. Are power drills and electric frothers an acceptable shortcut? Or do they betray the essence of grinding circles? Historians still argue whether adaptation dilutes tradition or keeps it alive. You watch two attendees spar over manual versus mechanized techniques like a latte art showdown, but stickier. Sensory detail tugs at you. Laughter mingles with the clatter of wooden ladles, clinking of clay cups, and distant strum of guitars. You feel the ground pulse beneath music and footsteps, like an ancient heartbeat reawakened. A modern aside, it's like a live ASMR concert for chocolate lovers. At another booth, children in embroidered aprons grind tiny portions of cacao. Tiny manos, dancing on mini metates under the guidance of elderly grandmothers who share whispered stories of their own childhood circles. Their giggles and proud grunts echo the communal warmth of bygone eras. Fringe whisper rumor has it that festival organizers once invited a celebrity chef to infuse cacao with microherbs, sparking protests over gastronomic heresy. You sample a piece of chocolate studded with candied vanilla pods and toasted amaranth, a nod to both colonial spice experiments, Section 7, and indigenous grain traditions. The sweet, crisp contrast plays like a flavor concerto on your palate. A light joke drifts breakfast and dessert, finally unite move over granola bars. Between stations, muralists paint live scenes of grinding circles on canvas backdrops. Convent sisters, palace courtiers, dockside laborers, all circling around chocolate's story. The vivid images glow beneath festival lights, reminding you of your own memory stroll through colonial chapters. Historians still argue how much these artistic renditions should prioritize accuracy over aesthetic drama. You step onto a small stage for a speed grinding contest. Participants compete to froth the richest foam atop their chocolate. You press down arms burning foam rising like a volcanic plume. The crowd cheers and you laugh breathlessly. Who knew chocolate could be so athletic? Gentle sarcasm. Next Olympics. Maybe. As dusk settles, lanterns flicker, and the plaza becomes a softly lit tapestry of tables and people. Instrumental lullabies drift through the warm night air, and the festival's energy softens into a gentle hum. Vendors drape tables with artisanal chocolates, blocks embossed with colonial motifs and modern twists like sea salt caramel. You nibble a truffle infused with mezcal smoke, a contemporary homage to chili-infused brews. You recall the revival's midnight rituals. Section 12 and Archaeological Whispers, Section 13. Today's festival is the culmination of centuries of adaptation, debate, and celebration. Each stone tool stroke echoes in the collective memory of chocolate's passage. You feel a tender calm wash over you, history's layers folding softly into the present. A final quirky note: as the festival winds down, attendees exchange cacao business cards, small squares stamped with personal messages and mini recipes, a modern take on colonial gift exchanges. Historians still argue whether these mementos mirror 17th century practices or simply fulfill souvenir desires. You tuck one into your pocket, a fragrant promise of tomorrow's taste tests. You step away from the central metite, the festival's soft glow fading into the night. The gentle pulse of manos and music lingers in your chest like a soothing lullaby. Soon you'll join the final circle, dreamy reflections on this journey's legacy. But for now, drift into sleep on the rhythms of modern circles, reviving ancient traditions. You return to your own quiet kitchen, where the hum of modern appliances feels muted against the memory of countless grinding circles. The countertop is smooth, no basalt or granite in sight, yet you sense the latent echo of manos and metites beneath your fingers. You probably won't survive this personal reflection. Well, at least you'll drift gently into a chocolate-hued dream. So before you settle in, like and subscribe if this series has sweetened your evenings. And share your location and local time below. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's settle into this final circle together. Mainstream fact. Today, home cooks around the world recreate traditional grinding techniques using small mortar and pestles or electric stone mills, honoring colonial methods with accessible tools. Historians still argue whether modern shortcuts dilute authenticity or democratize cherished rituals. Fringe tidbit. A boutique brand in Oaxaca once released vintage chocolate bars ground by hand using century-old metates, each limited edition numbered and sold at auction. You pause before a sleek mortar set its polished surface gleaming under soft lamplight. You scoop a handful of freshly roasted cacao nibs, their deep aroma filling the room like a whispered memory. You press the pestle into the nibs, feeling resistance give way to gritty paste, a tactile reminder that even in modernity, the heart of chocolate remains stone and effort. A light joke drifts, electric blenders meet your ancestral forebears. Sensory detail wraps you, the subtle thrum of the pestle against porcelain. The warm graininess warming under your palms, the heady scent of pure cacao intensified by friction. You recall marketplaces and convents, courts and guilds, all converging here in your own humble circle. A gentle sarcasm surfaces: who needs a medieval fortress when you have a well-stocked spice rack? You stir in a drizzle of honey, a pinch of cinnamon and a whisper of chili. Each addition a homage to colonial experiments. The paste thickens, froths faintly under your rhythmic grind, and your kitchen fills with a symphony of scent, sweet, spicy, and utterly familiar. Modern aside, This is your personal ASMR minus the microphones. You scoop a bit of paste onto a tasting spoon, its texture smooth yet alive with tiny flecks. You close your eyes and let it melt against your tongue, tasting centuries of adaptation. The smoky depth of fire pits the floral flourish of convent honey, the bold bite of dockside chili, the scholarly debates distilled into a single resonant flavor. Gentle sarcasm sighs all the perks of global trade without the ocean crossing. You set the spoon aside and wrap your hands around a warm mug of hot water, pouring a bit of paste in to swirl into a comforting drink. Steam spirals upward, carrying the paste's aromatic warmth like a gentle embrace. You lean back, feeling history's weight soften into pure comfort. A scholarly debate hums quietly. Historians still argue whether sipping is the truest form of communion with cacao's past, or if nibbling solid bars holds deeper ritual meaning. The clock ticks softly, its hands moving in circles, echoing the grinding loops you've witnessed. You look around your kitchen. Modern appliances rest at the periphery, but at the center sits your humble, Matate-inspired vessel of shared memory. You inhale the steam one last time, savoring the rich tapestry of colonial Mexican chocolate circles woven into your present. In this final moment, allow your breath to slow, softening, like the last echoes of a distant drum. The warmth of the chocolate-infused air wraps around you tender as a grandmother's shawl. Each inhale brings the sweet memory of volcanic stones, communal laughter, and candlelit convent whispers. Each exhale lets go of the day's bustle, making room for calm. Imagine the gentle pulse of manos on metates, fading into a steady heartbeat beneath your chest, guiding you toward rest, and sense the subtle weight of your arms once lifted to grind, and now relax by your sides as though centuries of tradition have been laid down like a comforting blanket. Feel the delicate shimmer of honey and spice lingering on your palate, a final note in the symphony of flavors that carried you from plantation to palace, chapel to festival, laboratory to modern kitchen. Let your thoughts drift through the circles you've joined. Sunlit plazas, echoing halls, dusty excavation trenches, and vibrant festivals, each a chapter in chocolate's colonial odyssey. Allow gratitude for those who came before you. Indigenous grinders, convent sisters, mestiza innovators, and guild artisans to fill your heart. Their hands shaped not just paste, but community, culture, and connection. Their stories swirl in each sip, reminding you that even the simplest act of grinding or tasting binds you to a broader tapestry of human experience. As you exhale, release any remaining tension. Fingers unclench, shoulders drop, and mind settles. The world beyond these walls may bustle, but here in the hushed glow of memory and flavor, time slows to a lullaby. You have journeyed through centuries and moments and gathered its essence in a single taste. Now, let your eyes drift closed, guided by the quiet hum of that fan or the soft whisper of a breeze. May your dreams be rich with cacao groves and candlelit circles, the rhythmic dance of pestle and stone lulling you deeper into rest. Sweet dreams, friend. May your night be as warm and comforting as a freshly ground cup of colonial chocolate.